Well, hello, and welcome to tonight's session of Living a Life Less Serious. So, I've been sat here thinking about what I was going to talk about, which is noticing. I wasn't sure. I had um, two different titles. One was the power of noticing, and one was the value of noticing. So, I'm sharing both of those with you. And I've been sat here for a few minutes while I was thinking, just reflecting on what I noticed, really. And the thing that the thing I realized, which I think I have kind of realized before, but you know how you sometimes see things on a bit of a deeper level, that, noticing is a superpower, isn't it? Like, it's not something that we do or we learn to do, although maybe we can learn to do it better, or we can learn how to how to be in order for it to happen more often. Perhaps that's a better way of putting it. But noticing is inbuilt. It's something we're born with, you know. It's a superpower. It's something that just happens. Like while I was sitting here quietly, I noticed that the light bulb up there started to flicker, and I'm thinking maybe the bulb's going to go. And I also really noticed my heart beating, like it was beating quite fast because um because I'm sat here about to do this talk. Um, yeah, I can still feel the light bulb, see the light bulb flickering. But what is noticing? Noticing is when something is brought into your consciousness, your awareness through the power of thought, isn't it? Because it comes into your mind. You notice something and you have a thought about it. And I suppose it's how, new thoughts arise as well. Um, and when we notice something, it can cause things to rearrange themselves, you know. It can cause a shift. You can notice something and it can change your behavior in an instant, which which makes me wonder about all the things we don't notice and what gets in the way of noticing those things. And I think I know what that is because I think what gets in the way of noticing is a busy mind. For example, I actually did this exercise not that long ago. Exercise, it was just something I did for fun. So I walk across from my house to the stables, which is about half a mile, and I do it often. And I'm very lucky because it's a beautiful walk across some fields and through a little wood. And the other day, I decided to see what I could notice that I hadn't seen before. In other words, I decided to be more present and try and be more observant. And there were so many things. Like one of the things is there's a little bridge that crosses a stream as you go from the woods into a footpath across the field. And I'd never noticed before, but it's actually quite crooked. It's kind of, it's, it's what's the word? It's sunk on one side a little bit. I've crossed that bridge loads of times and I've never noticed that before. And it's not something that's just happened. You can see that it's been like it for a long time, and I was like, oh, wow. And then I also walked through the somebody's garden pretty much. And I noticed I noticed so many little things I hadn't seen before. There was um there was a light switch on the wall that I didn't even know, and I'd struggled along that bit for a long time, which goes between the barn. And I went, oh my goodness, I never knew there was a light switch there. So I can't remember now all the other things I noticed. I just remember that it was it was a really fun thing to do actually, but it was really interesting because what I also noticed was that normally when I walk across to the stables, I'm really busy in my head. I'm really busy-minded. I'm thinking about who knows what I'm going to do when I get there, probably, or how much time I've got, or I don't know. It depends, obviously, on the moment, but that busy-mindedness gets in the way of me noticing. And I wonder, makes me wonder, what have I missed? So, so, noticing can really change habits and behaviors. I remember, I think it's, I think it's Michael Neal talks about this. I haven't listened to it for ages, but it's about, he calls it the Holy Church of noticing because because it seems like a little thing. Seems like a really little thing. If I think of when I notice something, I think of it as a little thing, a little noticing, but it has huge consequences. And it guides us to make decisions and um I don't know, it gives us a different picture, a new picture. And I think also it can um it can make massive differences in relationship. For example, here's something that happened just tonight. So when my husband came home from work, he came in and there was the usual dogs going crazy and he comes in, he's a big personality, so when he enters the room. But he'd been he's been working away. He'd had a 2, 3 hour drive this evening in the dark, in the traffic. And I really noticed that he looked tired. Like, I mean, I knew he probably would be tired, but I noticed that he looked tired. So I did something without thinking, and this isn't going to shine a very good light on me, really, because I should maybe thinking now I should do this anyway. But what I did was I went and made him a cup of tea, which doesn't seem like a big thing, but quite often, especially if he would come in, especially if I'm in the middle of something, and I'm always in the middle of something. Even if I'm sat watching telly, I'm in the middle of watching telly, right? And I wouldn't, I might jump up and I don't know, but I really noticed that he looked tired. And I made a cup of tea, and the thing that was different about it was the feeling that went with it. And it kind of, that feeling kind of expanded. and this will probably make you laugh, but it expanded in that when we have a bit of a ritual where we sit and watch the news or put some telly on around 6 o'clock. And um, I like one TV station, he likes another, and we have a little, oh, don't put that one on, put this one on, and again, I just let things go because I was still feeling, what was I feeling? I don't know, compassion maybe. That noticing of him being tired just made me more compassionate. Yeah, I think that's the word. But I think also when you notice something, because it's come from like another space, the space before thinking, your thoughts, it's come from who you really are, what you're really made of. So it's, I was going to say real or true. I'm not sure if that's what I mean, but it's when you notice something, you can trust it, kind of. Or that's what it feels like to me anyway. And, I'm sure that missing when we maybe even just noticing that we haven't noticed much is a good thing to notice, you know? And I can certainly look back over periods of time, days, recently too, where I haven't really been noticing anything because I've been so caught up in, whatever project I'm working on. But there's something really interesting is that I think if you noticing small things, or noticing things helps them become or stops them from becoming big things, you know? And I often think I don't notice. One of the things I'm not very good at noticing is when I'm tired. Um, because I've got caught up in a project, so I haven't noticed I don't notice the time. Um, the other evening I um disappeared into my office and I said, "Oh, I'm just going to be an hour." And that was at 6 o'clock, just after our little sit down with the news, anyway, around 6 o'clock. And I noticed, because I could hear the telly in the background, and I noticed it went quiet. And I heard my husband come up the stairs, and I realized that it was much later than I thought. And in fact, it was 9:30. So my hour had, so not noticing time, definitely. What else? I don't think you can try to notice. I don't think you can, or maybe you can. Maybe that was my walk across the woods to the stables was trying to notice um, things. But actually, I think the pure noticing of something comes, it's the implication of being more present. It's what you get when when your mind is quiet. Like there are times when I go for a walk, take the dogs, or just go for a walk, when I really notice the birds, like really notice, like I can even pick out different bird songs or really notice, I don't know, things in nature, like the way the sun comes through the leaves and things like that. Or the feel of, when I don't know, you feel the the kind of wind or the feel of when there's a cold breeze and you really notice it, that sort of thing. Yeah, I did actually come up with some questions which I was going to go through. I was going to ask um, myself and you guys. And the first question was, what was one thing you've noticed today that you would normally kind of rush past? And I noticed today, it really struck me today. I noticed when the sun came around the corner because we're kind of south facing almost, and the sun came around the corner and started shining through the um, windows. And I wouldn't normally notice that, but I was just sitting quietly. I wasn't actually doing anything. I was just sitting, and yeah, and I noticed that, and just then I also noticed the dust that needed removing, various bits of furniture. But that's not something I would normally, because I don't very often just sit. And I guess I haven't been, I've had a couple of days not feeling myself, not feeling good. So I was just taking time. And again, it's that taking time, isn't it? When you take the time to just have a moment. Because when your mind gets quiet, and I'd automatically given myself today as an easy day because I haven't been well. So the my to-do list had gone. I'd got rid of it. And that quieter mind, that my busy to-do list had gone. So, things become clearer. You notice what's going on around you much more. And again, it makes me think about all where in my life am I not noticing things? Ah. Actually, talking about not being well, that was something else that gave me this thing of noticing because I'm not a very good patient, actually. I don't like getting ill. I mean, nobody does, do they? But I really don't. And it's a combination of, um, I hate it when I really feel like I can't function properly because I'm that ill because then I get caught up in an urgency of things I'm had to do and can't do. But also, I get caught up in the feeling of being unwell, the physicality of it, having a really bad headache, or in this case, the last couple of days, I had a really bad stomach. And that can get really out of control in my head. So it's not so much what's going on in my body as the relationship I have with what's going on in my body. And I feel myself, you know, I notice how I get quite anxious and I have thoughts running through my head of, oh, I can't cope with this. I can't stand this. I can't, it's too much. And during yesterday was the worst day. I really noticed myself going into that. And I remembered that my body was sorting itself out. And then the more I resisted, I mean, I really did have a moment of noticing I was stuck in my head about being ill. And when I say stuck, I mean, oh my God, I've got to cancel this and I can't move things around in my diary and I'm going to let this person down and all that sort of stuff. That just magnifies, amplifies. the discomfort of being ill, but it's nothing to do with the being ill bit, really. And I remember yesterday just taking myself off and lying on the bed and just letting it be, letting myself be with the stomach cramps and things. And it it really did make it much easier. But and that was all about the noticing again, the noticing that I was, you know, getting into that urgency stuck in my head and resisting what I was going through. And in the past, I wouldn't have noticed that. I would have got much more upset. Hmm. I wonder how much we miss. I keep thinking about that. What am I noticing now, sat here? Well, I'm noticing that I actually feel quite relaxed about talking to myself, talking to you, really. It's funny. I started this Zoom call as a, as a drop-in um for people who just get caught up this time of year with as the darker, colder winter months draw in, and people I used to hate this time of year, and I really believed I suffered from SAD, seasonal, whatever it's called, I can't even remember the name. And I don't see it like that anymore. So that was my reason for starting this. And and I made a commitment to myself to do it every week, regardless of whether anyone turned up or not. And the idea was that I would record something. So so I have now. And well, I guess if you're watching this, it means I actually decided to send out the recording. So, yeah. So that's a win, isn't it? And I'm noticing that it gets easier and easier when I imagine that you are there listening and I am actually talking to somebody and maybe helping somebody. So, I have I've been talking for a little while. I don't think I have anything much more to say about noticing. And yeah. So how could I finish this off? I suppose with an invitation, really, because, and my invitation would be just simply this, that see if you can just take a little bit more time to simply notice anything, everything, and then see how, I don't know, see how things unfold. You don't have to do anything. It's already there. You just need to you need to be in that place where noticing can arise. Okay, I'm going to finish off now. So thank you for listening and hope to see you again next week.